welcome back to Smooth Talk. I just want to take a quick moment and thank today's sponsors. We have Forever 10. Go there for all your card shop needs, whether it be Pokemon, Digimon, or Magic. Bob and Amy are some of the best in town, and they're willing to help. Also, we have GNC Sedalia and Osage Beach. Go ahead and stop by that store. I know there's a couple goobers that work there. Heard they know their stuff, but they're willing to help, and we'd be happy to have you. Now, if you've been following, we know that my good friend and brother, Mr. Taylor, went to a My Little Pony convention, and then he went out on the ice. He got locked up. But guess what? Straight out of Candyland jail, we have him back, the man himself, Mr. Taylor Blank. All right. There he is.
And I'm back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Like I say, they couldn't hold us down for long. By God, Rainbow Dash for life. My Dashies got me bailed out. Wasn't too bad, you know. Yeah, the Candyland ice rink is not. I am not welcome back there. No time soon. No time soon. Yeah, no, they were highly pissed. It was not good. So, go ahead.
Well, today's honorary guest, we have Mr. Joe Lutz. Joe, we've known you for a while. We're happy to have you. It's an honor. We're going to talk about all sorts of things today, but the first thing I want to ask you is, did you used to play like toys like this when you grew up?
No.
Don't lie to us now.
What did you have when you grew up? What was the toy of choice?
Really, G.I. Joe. That was a big one. Oh, yeah.
That was the man?
Oh, yeah.
The big ones, not those tiny little stupid ones. The big 12-inch ones.
Yeah.
They had the coolest toys. Jeeps. You had gliders. I mean, amazing stuff. It really never worked very well, but
Right.
It was just absolutely amazing as a kid to have that. Everybody had them. That was your main.
Exactly. And you don't see a whole lot of that anymore as far as like, you know, as far as from what I've seen, like a lot of little kids nowadays, like you see a lot of them having like iTablets or iPads. And you see more video games than actual tangible toys, things you could play with and throw and break and, you know, things like that.
Well, you know, you'll be at a restaurant, the kids, and they'll be 2 or 3. They can't even change their own diaper, but they know how to run that phone. They'll be grabbing that phone and go at it. One of our favorite toys as a kid was lawn dart.
Oh, exactly.
I was about to ask.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I got a set of them at home.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yep. Found them at a estate sale, and they are considerably more expensive than they were back in the day, if you can find them.
I can only imagine.
One of the only toys to ever be banned. You're not allowed to sell them. You know, you're not really allowed to resell them.
Right,
But,
yeah.
you know, they were just a 2-pound sharpened chunk of lead coming down at you at 50 miles an hour. So you can imagine how that worked.
Man.
To this day, I still want the old, what was it, Little Giants? He had the Eagle Knievel action figure.
Oh, yeah.
And then they wind him up, and they let it go. To this day, I still want one of those.
Evel Knievel stuff is hot. It's big money. It is hot. Check it out on eBay, and it's.
You know, and it has been for like ever. I mean, forever. Because like even my dad talking about like stories back in the day. You know, it's like getting your first Evel Knievel bicycle. He was like, I mean, just a bicycle in general. He's like everybody was Evel Knievel.
I found
everyone.
I found a set of Evel Knievel mugs at a thrift stop the other day. Thrift store.
Nice.
Brought them home. Get the old engine. I thought, I know what these are. Looked them up. Evel Knievel mugs from the 70s.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, it's amazing what that stuff brings. Everybody wants to buy their child.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, for sure. That's why we hold on. I've known that nostalgia is such a powerful force for people. And even my dad, he told me that he had those old iron, steel construction pieces, toys that they used to make, whereas a bulldozer or farm equipment. And that's the one thing he says, I regret letting him go. Well, Joe, I know we kind of got right into that topic, but why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what you do, and a little bit of history.
Well, we're here in Sedalia. I have been in Montauk County or in Sedalia, this whole area, for basically all 57 years. Born and raised in Tipton. I've been the mayor there back in the 90s, and then the mayor again up until 3 months ago, and then county commissioner in the 90s or 2000. And now I'm back to being county commissioner. Now I'm the presiding commissioner in Montauk County. So kind of amazing how things come around, go back around. Have done in the community between coaching kids, including hiring half of them at the restaurant, which is a whole story in itself. There's a lot of stories that go with that. Those places don't exist anymore. You can't do it. And generally, just having been here and your family's been here since the place started in 1850, both sides, you feel like your roots are here, and you love the place.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, and you have such a rich history, like especially your family, just around these parts, because you all have been here so long. I mean, roots are real here for sure.
It's amazing the places you go and the people that you meet who know you, who know your brothers, who knew your father, your grandfather. It's amazing. Any place you go, you're interconnected one way or the other because you have been here.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and it's such a small world. It's crazy.
It's unbelievably small.
It really is, and and of course, like growing up, you never think about that. You hear people say it all the time. It's like, hey, it's a small world, trust me, and you're like, whatever, until it happens. And then like once you start like growing up and you start going other places, and you're running into people that recognize you or that you recognize, and you're just like, what are you doing here? And then the next thing you know, you're like, man, it is a very small world. How like so many people are connected. It's wild.
I have a terrible time with names.
Mm-hmm.
I know faces, I don't know names. So my daughter and I, girlfriend and I, we will be somewhere. I have been in California at LAX waiting to go to Fiji, and somebody comes up and starts talking to you. And you're like, yeah, hey, buddy, how you doing there?
Right,
you have a 10-minute conversation, they leave, and then, who was that? And I'm like, I don't know, don't have a clue, So It works that way, and since I am bad with, there's nothing worse than you're sitting somewhere, you're having dinner, you're in a bar, and somebody beside you starts talking to you. You know who it is, you've known them forever, you don't know the name.
Oh, yeah.
Then your girlfriend's sitting there, and she's looking at you like,
are you going to introduce me?
Aren't you going to introduce you?
Exactly.
And I finally got to the point, I feed it into her head that, listen, when that happens, you're going to have to say, Joe is just, he doesn't have very good manners, etiquette. I am such and such. Because otherwise, I said, I'm not introducing you because I don't want to introduce you. I'm not introducing because I can't sit here and say, I don't know this guy that I've known for 10 years. What am I do? Oh, your name is again.
Exactly.
So it's, that's really a touchy one.
It is. It can be for sure.
Now, you owned a business, but you touched on that. That being said, I worked for you at one point. Taylor worked for you at one point. I never want to play the slap hand game again with you. I know how good you are, okay? If you know on that one.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, one topic I wanted to bring up was, here I am, I'm watching Stranger Things, and it's in like the 70s, 80s, and you see all these juniors and seniors, and they have jobs, and it's not uncommon for them to be at their job. Oh, that's how we were. We were good to work throughout high school, and it's a two-part question. One, how important do you feel it is for kids to have jobs or to provide them the opportunity to work? And two, why aren't we seeing it as much, in your opinion?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I've got a daughter. She's 22. Put her to work when she was a little kid. She wanted money. I said, great. We'll go out to the country club. We'll go get some golf balls. I'll sell them. You can get the money. Which was followed by, well, why do I have to go? Mm-hmm. I said, you don't, but I'm keeping the money. Mm-hmm. So you drug her out there. She went in there. She got the money. If you think that a kid is going to magically hit a certain age and then a work ethic is going to show up, you're insane. You're setting your kids up for failure when you do that. That's just the way it is. You have to get them a work ethic. You have to make them do things, and you have to make them complete. If you don't, they're not going to do it. If you are an adult and you do not have or have never had a full-time job by the time you are 27, 28 years old, you are never going to have it. You are a cripple to society. That is the way it is. It's just not going to magically appear. You've been around people. You've seen them. As long as the job is interesting and fun, they're great. But then they're like, well, this isn't any fun anymore. I'm not showing up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And in the past, you couldn't do that. You can do it today because, I'll just quit. I got something to do Friday. I'm not going to work. I'll go down the street I get a job, they're hired, and nobody cares because everybody is short-staffed.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
So, yeah, it is. If you don't teach them that, nobody else is going to, and it's not going to show up. You know, you've got to remember this. If you're a coach in a sport, if you're coaching football today, like you did 40 years ago, number one, you're going to make it one day. The second day, they're going to rest you because you can't do what you did back then.
Oh, not even
It
close.
was August. It was hot. They didn't give you water.
No.
I don't know what the hell they figured we were playing a game in the Sahara with no water or what they were doing, but you had a half of practice and then the second half, and you got water at the half of it. And I have no idea to this day. You're sitting there, all right, well, Taylor, we need you to come across the line, take a step, square up, and you know what you're thinking? Water,
Exactly.
water.
Yeah, I'm thirsty.
You're just dying.
Yeah.
I weighed $150 if I weighed anything, and, I didn't bother me. I'm looking at some of these, well, we called them fat thin, but nobody was fat thin. Everybody, that's another story.
Right,
but the heavier kids, you're going, I don't understand how these guys aren't dropping over dead.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're going to sit there and look at people and go, you know what, these damn kids won't work today. I just don't know what you're going to do. It's terrible. They ought to do this. They ought to do that. They're not going. If you don't make your workplace, if you're going to rely on that age of kid, we did a lot of that in Jefferson City for the last 20 years. We've had no problem keeping it. You have to make that place a place that they want to come, that they want to show up. You got to lead by example, and you get them in there. And the last 5 years, 10 years, every kid we've had in there from high school, we have probably 13 people on the staff. In a year's time, if all 13 of those people have a combined absentee rate, if they miss 1 day a piece for the year, that would be high. Most of them go years, never miss. They're never late. They're always on time. They like it. Everybody else that works there knows you can't screw off because he's got to pay for it.
Yep.
So it's a lot like the military. You're there, as you know, I don't, but you know that you're there building a cohesive unit. Everybody relies on everything. If you're going to try to attract that age of kid today, and trust me, they're crying out for a place like that to go to.
Well, it killed me when I got out because my first job out was at Menards. And here I was 26. I get 18, 19-year-olds that are coming in that are just, like you said, just looking for a placeholder job. And I've had to deal with 18 or 19-year-olds that have to hold a rifle that we're training. It's life or death for them. And they have to understand the severity. And it's like, we are so strict and crucial on these young minds to let them understand that every action will have a consequence. And then you go back to the real world or this side of the world, and you see this 18 or 19-year-old, and we were always taught right place, right time, right uniform. And they can't even do that. And they don't see what the big deal is. And I say, you have these other guys out here risking their lives, putting their lives on a contract paper to go out here and be something to pay for their college, and you're in here and you're not appreciating the opportunity that's in front of you, that they're willing to sacrifice themselves to provide for you. And that will drive me up the wall 7 days a week. But on a lighter note, the first time I ever went into entrepreneurship, it was funny you said the golf balls. I must have been in 7th grade. Oh, you'll remember.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I
And
remember.
my dad says, well, if you want to make some money, he had those big 50-gallon drums, blue drums, everybody knows. And he's like, well, just fill them up with walnuts. And I said, all right. He's like, you fill up those drums. Once they're both full, I'll take them into town. You get the money. And so I spent all day, hours and hours, filling up these big drums. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't wear gloves. And
Yep.
so, lesson learned, if you've never done that before, I made maybe $40 off of both of them.
It's not
if
very
that.
lucrative.
It's not
say if
lucrative.
that.
Yeah, if that. I might have been lucky if I got that. He might have pitched in. I don't know. Might have matched the 20.
Yeah.
But I had black hands for 2 weeks after that.
Do you know what one of the main uses of walnut or the outside of them is
What's that?
tanning oil. If you get bronzers, you'll look on there, and that's exactly what's in it.
I'll be darned.
Yep.
Makes a lot of sense in a roundabout way.
Oh,
It
yeah.
really does, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, like talking about like how you was talking about like work ethic and things like that, you know, how it's not just, you know, you don't just have it in you. It's got to be made into you. And it's one of those things where it's like, I know like, especially like talking for ourselves and things like that, you know, because we worked for you. It was one of those things where, of course, you know, we had parents that taught us work ethic, you know, and stuff going in. But really, you were a lot of kids' first job. You were our first experience with understanding what the hell even work ethic was, you know, because you held us at a standard that was pretty high. I mean, you understood that we were kids. We're going to mess up. There's going to be mistakes. You knew that going in, but you still held us to a standard that we had to be at. And it was one of those where I always felt like it would, like, because you were a coach of mine, because you were a friend of mine, I also felt like you was almost like another parent. Like, I didn't want to disappoint, you know, like when it was time, it's like, okay, we have to be at work. It's like, you can't miss these days. Don't be calling in sick when you're not sick. Like, don't be doing things like that. And it's like, I know, like, even for myself, it's like, well, I wouldn't dare, because not only does it look bad on me, but it could possibly even look bad on my dad.
Sure, it reflects on your whole
everybody.
upbringing.
Yeah, and then it only puts you in a worse position, puts the restaurant in a worse position, puts everybody else behind, you know, and like that was things that always used to like drive me forward, you know, because like it still kills me today. Like even, you know, with where we work, it's like, well, I don't ever call in sick. Like we don't, but we can't afford to. There's no time to be sick, you know. It's like, and that's how our work ethic is. It's like we have to be there.
20 years, I think I missed 2 days, and all of us got sick. But, you know, that was about it. And, you know, I got COVID, and if I didn't know I had it, I wouldn't have missed those days. I had hangovers that were a lot worse than that. So,
Yeah.
But, you know, you found out you had it. But in general, you know, you just, and that was the same way with my father, etc., my mother, you know. You could do a lot of things, but if that got back to them, you could have robbed a bank, would have been less embarrassing.
Right.
I want to say that it also is one of those things, being in the food industry that you were in at the time, you know, one other big benefit that you understood, and I mean, I think it gets overlooked, is that, you know, if we had to work extra hours, or if we had, because you had your sports stars that maybe have to go and do their games, and we'd be in there busy on a Friday night, we knew it was coming, that you were always assured that we were going to be fed. You took care of us in that aspect too. And, you know, for some of us, I mean, and it's not to poke at anybody, but it's one of those where it's like some kids had to work and their parents are working 9 to 5s, if not more, and they're making check to check. And so for us to go out and work, well, we didn't want to have to spend the money we did make on food as well. So you made sure that we always had food in our stomach, that we were well fed. And like I said, I just think that that was overlooked really a lot too. And I know you did that for a lot of people. And from me to you, thank you. And I appreciate that.
You know, you're welcome. Like I said, there's a lot of good memories there. There's a lot of fun. And as you get older, and again, that was almost coming up on 40 years ago when I started that restaurant. You know, that's what's amazing. But when you started out at 20 years of age, you know, it's not, doesn't seem like you're near as old as you should be to have that kind of a background.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it was amazing because, like, for a small community, you know, of course, for as small as Tipton was, it was such a vital thing for us growing up, you know. It's like, that was the place.
You're missing those things in a community so much anymore. Growing up, you had sub-fantasy there. You know, kids were there, etc.
Yeah.
You know, they had a place to go, spend. It was interesting. They got out. You know, they met each other. They had contact face-to-face, which a lot of them don't do anymore. You know, there are actually people that make money teaching kids how to answer the phone because they're scared to answer the phone.
Well, you talked about in a video on your Facebook about the word anticipation. Can you go into that?
You know, you sit there and every kid my age, you know, and I like to say that, you know, we're OGs, we're the original Gen X's, we're right at the end of the baby boom, and you go in there, every single one of them, almost without exception, is going to have the same memory of Saturday morning. Getting up, getting a bowl of cereal, sitting in front of the TV, watching the test pattern, waiting for it to come off, and waiting for Bugs Bunny to come on. Bugs Bunny was the first show. You knew every show. You got up at 8:30. You went on to Channel 17, then to Channel 8, and you bounced back and forth. You knew where that was. Land of the Lost, Grape Ape, Scooby-Doo. As a little kid, you had Scooby-Doo and you had Josie and the Pussycat. I couldn't understand how Shaggy got off Scooby-Doo and got changed and got to Josie and the Pussycats and was that guy on there. That was amazing to me.
Exactly.
I thought, this guy's the hardest working guy I've ever seen. So you did that, and then you got to American Bandstand. Well, it's got a good beat, and I can dance to it. Oh, Jesus, God. As a kid, then it was time. You were like, it's 5 below zero, and there's a foot of snow. I'm getting the hell out of here because I'm not watching this, And that's just the way it was. But God forbid, if your favorite show was on, if you were watching Battlestar Galactica, and it was down to an important moment, and, we've got to go to Aunt Susie's whatever, and you're like, it was worse than death.
Oh,
you're like, because that's the chance you got. That's the only chance you had to watch it.
Exactly.
And then you're like, oh well, in 6 months it'll be on summer reruns, and you were crushed.
Oh my God.
Every kid in school the next day, all your buddies, oh my God, that was the best episode ever. Oh, such and such died. You're just sitting there, literally crying because you didn't get to watch it. So, Christmas, the wish book. You got the Sears wish book. That thing was dog-eared. Everything on there that you wanted and hoped you were going to get, and you were going to get one toy. You waited for that day. You think kids care about Christmas anymore? They get whatever they want whenever they want it. They don't care. Christmas, a birthday, those were big things. They're not anymore. Through the best of intentions, you've ruined what made childhood and growing up the thing it was.
Well, that's when kids shared too.
Yeah.
You might like if me and Taylor, we knew we had that catalog, right? I'd be like, look, I'm going to try and get the blue Power Ranger. Mm-hmm. You get the red one.
I'll get the red one.
And it's like, we just keep asking for those. And then that way, if we both got it, we could play. We could trade.
We could trade.
And there was no bad ill will to it. People were able to talk to each other. And kind of like you said, when we got into high school, we came around when cell phones were first arriving. But that being said, I know you mentioned like the anticipation of having to go somewhere not knowing who's there. If you liked a girl.
And I don't even know how we figured out where all the parties were. It just went through the grapevine.
Yeah.
But, you would be heading to California. Oh, it's such. So you'd follow your buddy if you didn't know, and you'd go in there. And you went in totally blank. You had no idea who was going to be there. And it was just, oh, my God, it's like magic. Look at all the. Now, they all know who's going to be everywhere. Look at them. They're going to be there.
Yep.
When we played football, basketball, baseball, if you went to California, I didn't know any of them. Nothing. All I knew is I wanted to kill every one of them.
Oh, exactly.
That was the only thing you knew. Now, half of these kids spend more time in travel ball, etc., playing with them than they do with their own kids.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And, because, let's face it, travel ball is great because you're 5 foot 10 inch white kid with no talent. If we play enough travel ball, he's going to be in the major league. No, he's not. Do you know what my parents would have done if I said, hey, I need $500 to play travel ball? I don't know if they would have died laughing or, died giving me a beat because neither one was going to happen. It didn't exist for a reason, and now it's such an industry, and I think you have a lot of kids. I always said I'm the one guy that realizes the older I get, I'm like, I don't understand how I ever played anything. I was terrible.
Right.
Everybody else I know is like, I was just that close. If I'd had that break, I would have. I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
No, you weren't. You were worse than I was. It's amazing. And I think they have this desire, overwhelming, to give their kid that edge that's going to get them to the next level. And they're just fooling themselves. And 3/4 of the time, they take the fun out of the sport, which is what it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
When you played for me, started out the season, told you one thing. We're going to have fun.
Yep.
Now, if you don't have any talent, and if we don't have any talent here and we lose, that's all right. Your job is to learn how to play the game and do the best you can.
Yep.
When you are 35 years old and you're sitting on that couch at home watching a ball game, and you see a guy hit the ball in the outfield, and the outfielder picks it up and throws it to the wrong base, I want you to be able to look at that and go, what the hell? He should have thrown it to second, not third, before the announcer says something.
Exactly.
If you pick that up, then you won. because you enjoy the beauty of the game. And they keep trying to turn all of these sports. They try to get people who don't like them to like them, so they change it, and the people who did like them don't like them anymore.
No,
It's mind-boggling.
very true. That's very true. What do you think as far as like like speaking about like sports and teams and things like that? Like back when you was growing up, even though it's a small community, it's like did everybody make the team, or did you still have to try out?
Football, yeah,
Right.
because there's so many spots on there.
Yeah.
Basketball, no. You kind of did, but you had a team, a B team. A lot of times you had a freshman team, but generally, yes, that's kind of one of the advantages of a smaller school. Baseball was pretty much the same way, and you kind of got filtered down. People who could play played. People who didn't.
Right.
But you had cheerleading. You had to make cuts there. They only kept so many people on every end of it, so you did and you didn't too much. But it was so much different because, again, you didn't have travel teams. It was survival of the toughest. Whoever was the meanest son of a bitch that showed up, it didn't make difference. Whether he showed up smoking a cigarette and got out of the truck, or who it was. That was the guy that was going to play.
Did you have a lot of kids going out back then? I mean, did everybody go out for it, or
No.
was it?
No, we missed. Again, you're talking back in the day. A lot of kids couldn't play because they were on the farm,
Right,
and
very
we
true,
missed out
yeah.
on probably 4 or 5 really good kids that would have put us over the edge from being a 5-4 team to being 7-2 and making the next level. But again, they just couldn't play.
Right.
I was talking to Randy Petrie. He finally got to play basketball, and he's about 7, 8 years older than I am. He finally got to play basketball when he milked all. He said he would milk all the cows early, and they finally would let him.
Right.
And I say that's how it was. It was a little better for us. My dad played baseball, loved it back in the late 30s, early 40s. Was really good at it. So you kind of played on his sympathy a little bit there. And my mom, her idea of a guy was he came home dirty playing in the dirt. So she encouraged you to be out there banging heads and going at it. So you had those two ideas there behind you. So it made a big difference.
Good deal. So how many siblings do you have?
5.
Now, are you the youngest?
I'm the youngest.
You're the baby of the group.
Yep.
Now, was it easier for you to play sports versus your siblings? Like for the older siblings, or did y'all have the same opportunities as far as in that aspect?
You did at that point because it was the same sports were available. When my oldest brother, he was a lot scrawnier. My next brother, he was, again, they were 130 pounds when they were teaching.
Right.
I mean, I was a big whopping 145 pounds,
Yeah.
But you had basically the same thing. You got up, you had Babe Ruth ball then,
Yep.
you had all of that. So, but you didn't have, any of the travel teams, any of that. And I hate them. I hate them with a passion, and I'll tell you why. Probably one of the best players that you had would have been like Bradley Ross Knipp
Right.
playing football.
Yeah.
When that kid was 13, he was the worst athlete you could find. He was terrible. He was a late bloomer.
Right.
By the time he was a senior,
Ooh.
he was, Dick Butkus reincarnated. That kid was just mind-boggling out there, and he was just destroying everybody.
Exactly.
And, you end up with this. We want to win the 3rd grade tournament. Who cares?
Right.
That's not what you're there for. You're there to teach them, and they don't do it, and they want to win. So you end up in 8th grade with a 5'9" 8th grader on the basketball team who's great. The big kid sitting there on the bench, he never plays. He quits playing. You end up with a 5'8" senior in high school. It has a lot of negative. You're getting back to separating the rich from the poor. Before, everybody was in one group. Now, if you don't have the money to be in that, you feel like you're a step behind, and that's not what it should be for.
Yeah.
Well, also with that comes not just learning the sport, but you're learning camaraderie. You're learning brotherhood. You're learning respect for one another and how to be there for one another and support each other, whether it be through wins to celebrate and losses and hard times. Camaraderie to me, I might not have played a lot of sports myself, but I will tell you, I have a short story. One of the first days I went to my the actual military. When I went to the COF is what they call it. That's where everybody goes to sign in and stuff. And one of the first days I walk in, I'm in this new team, squad, everything like that. And this kid looks across and he goes, Cantu forgot his flag. Okay, and like I said, right place, right time, right uniform. So I didn't have my American flag on. And it was my fault. Okay? Our platoon sergeant comes down and, he's got this look on his face. He says, you two come over here. There's lockers where you put your stuff. Well, he grabbed us both up by the collar, slammed us against there, picked us up. Big old boy. Picked us up. And he just looked at him, and he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. And he says, first off, is that your brother right there? He's like, is that somebody you're going to go to war with? Yeah. So he's like, so instead of helping him out, you wanted to throw him under the bus. He's like, do you have a flag in your locker? Yeah, I do. And he's like, so why didn't you just give it to him and tell him to fix himself up? Tell him quit being stupid. Instead, you threw him under the bus. Now everybody in the company knows that happened. Now everybody looks bad, and I look bad. He's like, so what's the right answer? Are you going to be there for your brother, or are you going to be there and try to throw him under the bus so you think you can get ahead? Life lessons right there.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that's
you
a
learn
life lessons.
First of all, you learn discipline. You learn how to complete something when you play an organized sport, and that's what it should be for.
Yeah, for sure.
So, one other thing we have here, growing up, or in your position, let's just say in your political position, how important do you think it is for us to invest in parks and recreation centers or areas for kids?
Well, it's not only for kids. And I'll
Very
tell
true.
you a experience I've had. One of my best buddies lives in Northwest Arkansas, Rogers, right where you have the Walmart dealer. Bicycling is a craze down there. They have a greenway. They'll go out do 25, 40 miles, never see a car. They have buildings. You walk that they have a ramp on the outside, it's 4 stories high, and you bicycle, park your bicycle outside, and go to work. And you see that, and then you're sitting here trying to bicycle around Tipton, and you're hopefully, well, it's a lot better now since we fixed the roads, but before, you were trying to dodge the potholes, etc., and
Right.
now you're worried about the traffic, etc., and you don't have that available, and you see that. And we've been looking, just in Tipton. I've tried to get the lady, the couple, they're an older couple, just south of the park. There's some just worthless acres there because it's floodplain, because it's so low. Get them to donate that just for that, to put trails to do that on. So yes, and not just for kids. It is for kids. The more you can get them out of the house, get them active is great. But you're also ending up with a bunch of adults that don't have any place to exercise either. And I hate to tell you that everybody is a hell of a lot fatter than they were 40 years ago.
One thing I was listening to Tony Hawk. Okay, he's I don't know how you feel about skateboarding, but he made such an awesome point that I think it's overlooked too. And he said, the beautiful thing about a skateboard is like it doesn't matter where you're from. He's like, all you had to do is go buy a board and you're in the club. You're in there. Nothing else matters. It's like, are you willing to try? Are you willing to have some fun?
I think what always impressed me about skateboarding and people like Tony Hawk is they're not a conventional athlete. They don't look like, a conventional athlete that you would see. But yet what they can do with that is just amazing. Skill it takes. Even though if you don't appreciate it, you can't. If you've ever enjoyed anything athletically in your life, you have to be able to appreciate a guy that can do that.
Right, for sure. And and like speaking on like the park and stuff like that, it's like it's amazing just like what Tipton has done with the park. It's amazing how beautiful that thing is. Especially at night. Like that memorial. Oh man. That is so beautiful.
Yeah, the Hainan family really went above and beyond. I mean, it's just a fantastic memorial there. It is, and the whole park, is just absolutely a gem to have there. But I say it's landlocked, so we're looking accordingly. But the baseball field, Myself and about 4 guys started an organization, BAT, Baseball at Tipton, back in the mid-'90s. We raised $80,000, give or take, to put that field in because there wasn't one. We didn't have one. We had to play on the old softball field. Back in the day, the original baseball field was at the corner where the football field.
That's right, because the football field used to be where the practice
football
field, right?
turned this way, and the home plate was there at the bottom of that hill. And then, of course, you had the track running through it. There was no fin. I mean, it was. And once that went away, then we played out of the park. And then finally, we decided, hey, city didn't have any money, so we just did it ourselves.
Right. Yeah. Well, it was amazing because even when we was doing like the Junior Babe thing, I mean, it's like you all did a lot of the upkeep on it.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, you all was out there working all the time. You know.
And the one thing that we always did in Junior Babe Ruth is kids never had to come up with a penny to play.
Right.
I got the Knights of Columbus always gave us a check for $500. That basically paid for the referees and the umpires and baseballs. And then if I needed new uniforms that year, we'd have a car wash, or we'd go door to door and give them a sticker, and they'd give you money, and you'd do that. But it was always important for me to make sure that the kids didn't have to spend a lot of money on that. And there was kids, you knew they didn't have any money. Well, you'd go out, and you had an extra glove here or there, and you'd find one, and you'd kind of throw theirs away and give them a decent one there, shoes, etc.
Sure.
So it's what you did. It was just important to me that every kid who wanted to play had a chance to play, and it didn't cost him or his parents.
Exactly.
And that to me is what the sport should be about.
Well, and I mean, and especially back then, it's like the parents appreciated that aspect of it because it was still something for the kids to go do. It was getting them to be around their friends, and things like that. But it didn't cost much, if anything. A little bit of travel here and there, that's okay. Usually, like with Junior Babe, I mean, we never traveled very far, if any, which was wonderful, and it's like, and that was always just a really good program for them. You know what I mean? It's like we all loved it.
Back when we started doing that I was playing Senior Babe Ruth 3 nights a week, and we had Junior Babe Ruth 2 nights. Well, we would play. We played just in California that first year. We had a couple California teams and us. We were just kind of starting the league up. Well, we would meet at St. Andrews at like 4:30 in the afternoon. There were no parents to drive. So I had Mom's LTD. We'd load up 9, 10 kids and the equipment in the back, and we'd go to a ball game with 10 kids in the car. And their parents would take them home. I don't think their parents ever knew that we only had one car to get there. And then again, back then, I don't think they would have really cared. They made it, didn't they? It was it's just different than it is now.
LTD turned into a school bus real quick.
It
did. That's awesome.
Yeah, that I love it. I love every bit of that. And when we're on the subject of Tipton, because that's where a lot of all these stories are taking place, it amazes me right now, and I mean it in such a good way. The females of that school have kind of taken over. Their basketball team, their golf team, their wrestling team, 3 of their girl wrestlers made it to state or qualified for state today. And I love the fact that the wrestling is finally getting a little bit more recognition. I love that. But at the same time, it's amazing that if you want something and you work for it, you're going to go get it. And I just think that the female athletes at Tipton, don't sleep on them. They've been doing amazing.
They've put together a good program. The crowd that follows them is, it's really amazing to see how many people are at these games. I went to the one down by Springfield, but the only one they lost. Big crowd there today. Of course, both the boys and the girls played. There was a big crowd today at Father Colton in Columbia to watch them. So it is to watch them play, the teamwork they have. If you would put this team back when I was in high school, they would be there isn't a team in the state that would even touch. Basketball is so much more advanced now, especially on the girls' side, than it was 40 years ago.
When we talked about some of the parks and stuff like that and getting kids out of the house, me and Taylor grew up where we still rode bikes around, like you said, and we had a good time. We hit a couple potholes, got scraped up a few times,
That was the beauty of riding. You had to swerve to miss the potholes, and that was sketchy enough.
But I remember as a kid, one of my first houses I lived in, it had a hill, and I would go up this hill, and I would wait. We're talking, I was like maybe 7. And I'd wait for a car to pass. And as soon as that car would come down, I'd run down that hill as fast as I could. And in my head, my imagination's going, oh, yeah, look at me. Billy Badass going down the hill, you know. And I was like, I'm sure they saw that, and it's that bad. But that imagination that we have as kids, it's important that we have places where we can go utilize.
They've replaced imagination now with your phone. You know, the imagination is given to them, and that's not a good thing. And if I can tell you one difference in all the years I was in the restaurant business up until a couple of months, started out, you know, I was 20. The guys I worked with were the same age. There was about three things on their mind: women, booze, and where the next party was. Video games were a distant 40th down the line. All of us, video games obviously weren't what they were today. I mean, they were in their infancy. But the minute you found out what girls were, that into video games. You know, we had better things to play with in video games, and that's where you went. In the last 10 years, not just the 20-year-olds I work with, the 30-year-old, the 35-year-old with three kids, they don't talk about women hardly at all. That's a distance. That's way on down the line for them. They don't talk about parties. You know, they're not talking about I'll go get a 12-pack of beer once in a while, but rarely. They talk about when is the next Marvel movie coming. And they argue about what's the best DC movie or Barbie. And they talk about, hey, you're going to be online playing video games. And these, like I said, these are, I mean, that's, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, that is one of the probably the biggest, most striking difference between growing up then with those guys and seeing what guys do today.
Yeah, I mean, the video game world. I mean, it is the normality.
Oh, it is.
I mean, you know, I mean, people that don't play video games is very much a minority. You know, and sadly, I'm kind of in that group because you know, it was one of those things where it's like growing up poor. Well, I didn't have options of video games. We didn't have those kind of options, and especially growing out in the country where we did. You know, I had neighbors that were close to my age, so luckily we had each other. We would ride our bikes and we would meet each other on the gravel road and go play around. And, you know, like back in them days, like we all had BB guns. We would go grab our BB guns, meet each other. We'd shoot cans and go hunt for birds.
Shoot each other.
Shoot each other, of course. You know, I mean, we did it all. It was that way all the time. We never wanted to be inside with video games. And I'm only 31. I'm still just a kid in this world. And it's one of those where it's like, even when I was growing up, because we didn't have those options, we didn't worry about it. It's like kids at school would talk about video games and they would show it. And of course we was intrigued and we wanted it. But at the same time, we knew when we got home, well, that wasn't available. So we had to do our own thing. So we would play basketball, football. We would be outside, you know, doing whatever we could to not have to be inside. Because, like, we all hated it. It's so funny because my dad could still say it today if I'm outside, and it still gives me the same feeling of, like, Taylor, like, that sound of him being like, time to come inside. It's dinner time. Get your ass in. I still have that feeling today if he says that. I'm just like a little kid again. I'm like, damn it, time to quit playing. I guess I got to go in. You know, I mean, it's embedded in you. It's crazy.
You know, we as 7, 8, 9-year-olds, you know, summer you were kicked out of the house, and on my street there was 60 kids. So you had all of those kids. You would be out. You'd either be playing sports. You'd head on kind of where the park is now, down there, build tree houses that were, I don't know how anybody didn't get killed, is beyond me. I mean, they were way up there, you know, but you stole all that wood. It was old wood, and you would do that. We had a pond down there on the other side, and it was cleared out. You could actually fish. We'd be down there fishing, starting a fire, just doing everything, and your parents had no idea what you were doing or where you were doing, and you know, you know, we had 6 of us, so if one of you was missing, you know, well, you had 5 spares, so it wasn't the worst in the world, you know. So that carried on into, you know, adolescent, adulthood. You know, when you were 16, it was Friday night. You had the keys to the car. They didn't know where you were at. They had no way to check that out.
No,
you know, it's like, hell, they'd worry about finding you if you didn't come back that morning. That's just the way it was. As when I was 16, 17, you know, we worked on the farm. And we worked, I mean, it was hard. I haven't worked that hard since. It was hard work. Well, when I got home, they couldn't say, well, you know, you can't go. You got to be in by, it's like, listen, I'm not going to be in by 9 o'clock. If I'm a kid, then I'm going to work like a kid. If you're going to work me like a dog, then I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to at night. If I'm not getting in trouble, then I'm fine, right?
Exactly.
And I can't really argue with you on
I know that on the video game aspect, I had a good balance, and I got to thank my dad for that. I probably would have been so into video games and grown up down that road, but he always found a good way to make it coachable for me and to learn. The first, I had a Nintendo 64, and he went out and he bought me the best game that you could have on it, Super Smash Brothers, and he showed it to me on a Friday night, and I was like, oh my gosh, like here it is. I want to play this. I want to do it. And he sets it right on the kitchen table, and he looks at me and he says, if I see you inside other than to go to the restroom this whole weekend, he's like, it goes in the trash can.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like I couldn't bear the idea of that getting thrown away. So then I go outside, and then I'm having fun. And like you said, I'm taking a walk in a cornfield. I'm picking up sticks. I'm dribbling a basketball. I'm on a skateboard, a trampoline, shooting hoops. I'm, causing a ruckus, trying to build something with a hammer and nail. And then Monday rolls around, and I forget all about it. And it's been sitting on the kitchen table the whole time. And then I realize, hey, maybe that's not as important as you think it is. You have a project outside you've been working on. You want to go finish that? Yeah, I kind of want to go finish that. Maybe I won't go play that game right now. And again, teachable moments like that you really, really appreciate as you get older, because you don't want to get sucked into a vortex of what the now is. You don't want to be stuck between the lines. You want to have a broad spectrum of how life should be lived.
I think you want to do that, but don't you want to be part of what's going on, not just an observer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a good way to put it.
And I think a lot of people are so into take it. Their reason they go to an event is to take a picture. You used to go to an event, and that's why you took a picture, because you were there. Now they're going to take pictures of themselves wherever it's mind-boggling. You can watch concerts and everybody's there, and I'm going, you're never going to watch that video. But every single person is sitting there video like they're got the goddamn Zapruder film.
Exactly.
It's not. It's just worthless video that nobody cares about. You're so worried about everything but the moment that you're never living in the moment.
Right. Do you think that's kind of like thinking like that? Do you think that's kind of what brought you back into like the political world, in a sense of like you're kind of thinking it's like, I don't think they're doing enough. They're not doing enough. Maybe it's like, is that why you kind of went in there?
Well, I was driving home, and I drove by, and God rest his soul, the lawyer we had in town that was, I guess he was a lawyer, July, the yard was that high. I'm like, why in the hell does he not mow his yard? So I went to city council meeting and says, this guy if he doesn't have to mow his yard, why do I? Why does anybody? I said, if you're not going to take care of this, the damn place is going to look like a ghetto before long. And it was. There was dozens of cars, you went from the four-way to the prison. There was 13 cars I could see that were not licensed junk cars.
Right.
And I kind of got I don't know. And I said, okay, no problem. I'll just come back and run the damn place myself. And that's basically what it was. So when I started out as mayor, I was not happy. I was like, this is, first day I got in there, I told the enforcement officer, I said, listen, nobody's going to give you any shit about anything. If anybody bitches you just tell them to kiss your ass and they can talk to me, because I'm the one telling you to do it. And I gave him a list of about 50 junk cars and places to clean up. And probably 48 of them did it by themselves. It's kind of, well, yeah, it probably needs to be done. And once you started going, and then you end up finding out you really had a good set of councilmen, they just were kind of, they weren't focused.
Mm-hmm.
Once we got things focused and got going, the meetings got shorter and the work that got done got bigger. And then you started making progress on it, and you started going. And then you kind of get to the end of that, you're going, nobody needs to be in these jobs that long. That's the problem with the country. You got too many goddamn old people that want to stay in power till they're 105 years old. They all need to go, all of them. If you're in there, get something done, and go home and let the next guy get in there and get something done. That was the whole deal of it. Then you had the whole, I took a little trip to Iowa, and you got that whole deal there, and I spent more time on Fox News than I think the president did for a while. So that was really interesting, but they still didn't know my name, so I didn't get any hate mail. I didn't get any hate calls.
Mm-hmm.
It was always the Iowa dad there, you know. And if you've never went viral like that, it's really it's interesting if they don't know who you are, because you're walking by the TV and you're going, what's that going on? Oh hell, that's me, isn't it? You know, it's just really kind of like you're floating above yourself, looking what's going on.
For people that may not know what you're talking about, explain what you're kind of talking about there, about the Iowa trip.
Yes, Elizabeth Warren always wanted to give everybody forgive their college loan. Well, my daughter, shout out, greatest kid ever. She's going to college, paying her, working, paying off her loans. Okay, my question was, why is nobody asking this lady, how fair is that you going to get your money paid back, but this guy who's paid his own way, he's just shit out of luck, he's screwed. And you're going, did they not teach you anything in journalism school? How hard is it to ask that one stuff? Never. Nobody ever asked that question. So obviously they're in Iowa because you had the cockroach there. So I'm like, I found out she was close she was going to get. So I'm going to take off on a Monday. I'm going to go up there and ask her that question. Oh, yeah, sure you are. All the guys are like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. So I headed up there. They give you a ticket. They ask her a question. And they got the ticket before, ticket. So she had a selfie line. So I said, fine. I jump in front of the selfie. Said, you want to take a selfie? I'm like, no. I said, I want to ask you a question. And then you kind of went through that. And I got the answer I expected. And I knew it was coming. So I knew how to put the foot down and not give her a chance to speak, because you're not going to have a dialogue. You got 30 seconds, give or take. So
exactly.
Go in. The minute she said that, I'm like, okay, boom, let the other foot drop. Finish what you want to do. Okay, I got my point made. I'm going home.
Yep.
Okay, there was no cameras close to you. There was nobody with a microphone there. It was just, you were just there. So that's it. I said, okay, fine. Got home. Yep, asked her the question, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah. Well, the next day was like, I went through like 4 hours of C-SPAN. I found you on there talking.
Yeah.
I said, oh, okay, but you couldn't hear anything. So then a couple days later, the superintendent called up. Well, you're going viral on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell's that mean? I don't know what Twitter is.
Yeah.
So then it just kind of went on like that. So it really was an interesting thing to do. But again, that stuff can only happen if it's organic. Really, you can't plan it.
Exactly.
If you do, it looks like you plan it.
Right.
One of the things that just drives me bonkers that I saw on some of those is death by your own research. And the reason that line drove me insane was because when we're in school, public school, we're taught to cite our work. Where did we get our work? Well, we had to do our research. We had to study. We had to get it from a book. So from a systematic point, for 12 years of your life, if you just do through high school, you're taught to research, come up with a plausible answer to get an explanation. Now, when you do that, they tell you you're stupid. I hate that so much with a passion in my bones that it's okay. Now, I'm not saying that they're always right. I'm not saying that. I still think you should possibly have a cited source and everything like that. But when people do the right thing and they do that, it's just amazing how quick they are discredited because they said, well, I looked it up. I found this information. This is the right answer to what I was looking for.
But if it doesn't match the narrative, they don't care.
That's exactly right.
You can ask somebody, and you can get in whether you're pro or con on transgender issues. They won't tell you, what a woman is. Okay, that's fine, But because they don't want you to cite a fact, like, well, if we draw your blood, we can see XY chromosomes. So I've seen, they'll talk. Well, am I Chinese? Well, I guess you could be.
Yeah.
Am I 7 foot tall? They can't say no because then they're trapped.
Exactly.
Why am I not 7 foot tall? Well, we can measure you. Well, I can check you and it'll say that you're, when you're dead and the aliens pick you out of the grave in a million years, they're not going to say, well, we think he was a, no, they're going to say, XY, this was a male, But again, that's just.
Do you think it's because there's just an overflood of wrong information available to people nowadays? Do you think that could be another factor in that too, with people getting wrong information and then just spreading it and just being like, this is the gospel, this is what I'm going to believe because it fits my narrative?
A huge difference between now and 20 years, girls I would date, girlfriends, etc., between then and now, they wouldn't know a communist from a socialist, from a Democrat, from a prohibition. Now, those same people are 20 years older, and you walk into their house, and it's the Fox News is going, MSNBC, breaking news, and they're eating it up. And I'm going, you didn't crap about this 20 years ago. Now it's like, oh my, and they're so susceptible at that level because they were an empty sponge before that they just soak whatever, and they end up only wanting to cite sources that back them up.
Mm-hmm.
The only time, and I don't watch, once the devil Hillary got beat, I quit. I hadn't watched Fox News. I watch minutes a day if that's it. And before then, I would watch more of MSNBC, et cetera, to get the opposing side's views, just so I had both sides of the story.
Right.
But you run into so many people, they just want to spout whatever the company line is, and they'll, and you're just, and you can tell who it is every time, and you're just like, man, you are only getting one side of the story, and it's not news, it's just opinion. You're just watching, Fox opinion, CNN opinion. Nobody is just doing news.
Exactly, because like back in the day, and especially like when you were growing up, that was kind of the thing. It's like you watch news, there were certain people that you knew was like that would say the news, and that's what it was. They would get on them, they go, "Hi, this is who I am. This is the news today," and they would read it out. They didn't share their opinions on what they thought of this news. It was just the news, and you did with it what you expect or what you wanted with it. Now that we have all of these different views, because like that, it's like, well, the people are separated because half of them are watching CNN, half of them are watching Fox
and
News.
In order to get ratings, you've got to be, get the wow factor out there to get them in there. Right. But, you could have the president walking across the Potomac, and one side is going to say, "Oh my God, the president's walking on water," and the other side is going to say, "Look at that dumb son of a bitch, he can't even swim."
Yeah.
And you're like, and that's what they'll do, and that's what the really sad part about it is. In order to get the ratings, in order to do stuff, they've got to be so fantastic with what they're trying to put out there that it just desensitizes everybody to have a little common sense.
Right. So, like, I mean, and like especially like dealing with like higher political issues and things like that, and you can see the chaos that is surrounded by it. What made you want to move on up the political ladder, even from being mayor?
The only thing that I like to do is I like to prove people one thing. If things are run right, they can run right. If you're in there and you're there for the right reason to get the job done, it's amazing how well things can work and how much stuff can get done. So you don't need to be in those jobs so long. Get in, my particular deal, clean the crap up, get all those junk cars out of there, and there were 3 or 4 streets that had been a disaster for decades that we took out, put them back in, did them right. Now they're finished. Everybody's happy. Time to hit the road. Okay, good. Now, if you're going to do something, go into retirement, let the next guy do it, or move on to the next challenge and say, what's here that needs to be done? Let's get it done.
Exactly.
And that's where I'm at right now.
So you're just trying to look at it from a broader standpoint.
Yes.
You're going, all right, I focus my ideas on this little bit. Now I'm going to focus it on the whole.
I've used, ever since I've been mayor, I've done, hey, Joe, you're mayor here. This is what we're doing. We're fixing this street. We're doing this. We're doing that. Now it's on to the next level because nobody knows what goes on at the county level. So it's, hey, Joe, you're presiding commissioner here. This is what we're doing. This is where our money's going. If you got questions, come ask me. Be happy to let you know. And you can do that when you're doing the right thing. When you're honest and you're doing the right thing, I want people to know every single thing we're doing because what we're doing is what should be done and done the right way. And if you've got stuff that you want to tell me about what we're doing and you know what you're talking about and you got a better way to do it, I'm happy to listen and we'll go that direction if it's going to save money and get the job done.
Exactly. And that's wonderful to hear.
Oh, it's great to hear. And what it sounds like to me when I'm listening to you, as a previous business owner, you have an idea and a structure of how to run things. And I'm sure that in a lot of ways, that helps you and how you want to operate just the town in general as well. And when you talk about budgets and how they should be spent, well, you were the little guy at one point. You were the guy with the starting business. You were the guy that had to put his neck on the line and take the risk to start a business. And when you look at the budget and how money in town is spent, do you think that part of that should be how do we get more businesses into this town, or where aside from schools and parks is the tax dollar most well spent?
That is a brilliant question because you're looking at economic development. You're in a small town. You can see what you're hurting for, and you can see that you have limited funds. And what are you supposed to be doing with those funds?
Yeah.
Is it there to do that, or is it there to just do the minimum? And so, I've looked at things like, let's buy some lots. Buy the vacant lots, give them to a guy that wants to build a house. We'll give you the lot if you'll put a new house on, because we're all short of houses. So you have to think outside of the box. And again, that's why I'm telling you, if that's not your strong point, you've been in there long enough, the next guy should come up and say, hey, I've got some ideas. Are you done running? Good. Yeah, great. Come on in. We want you to come in, give us your ideas. Let's move to the next step. That's how it should work, but it rarely does.
Well, we got one last question for you here, and it's a pretty basic one. So, what's your future goals, Joe? What do you got for us?
The one thing at this age is being a survivor. Health-wise, I haven't been to the doctor in 40 years. When I have been, everything's perfect. Everything works. Now, if you knew how long you were going to live, it'd be simple. But you have to be able to say, hey, I'm going to make it to a certain level, then I want to enjoy myself. And again, that depends on what your enjoyment is. Some people want to keep working forever. I've got a lot of things I want to do, and I've been doing. I took 2 weeks, went all the way down to Texas, out to California, up the coast, put it all out there on video, had a great trip. I'd never had that much time off to do it. Main thing, again, is to stay healthy. Hopefully my daughter will have grandchildren one of these days. I've had that nice break in between when she's old enough to take care of herself, and I'm able to go out now and get back to doing what I want to do. So you want to do that. As far as up, down, on the line, political office, again, I don't want to be 65-year-old guy being a state rep. That's younger guys need to be doing that. Guys that are 25 need to be doing it. Need to get in there and go. And I think, you can be on your mom and dad's insurance till you're 26. Hell, I think Andrew Carnegie damn near ran the railroad when he was 15 years old. And now it's like, oh my God, I can't get going until I'm 30. So I'm just looking at, as much public service as you can do until, like I say, you get to the point, it's the next guy.
Exactly. You're just trying to kind of give them the mold to play with a little bit.
Just hopefully you leave things a lot better than you found them. You left a good system to go, and you go on down the road, and you try not to be. You don't want to be irrelevant, but again, you should develop hobbies so when you get to a point, you have something else.
One more thing before we end this, I do want to touch on real quick, and like talking about like accessibility. Like you're saying, it's like if people have questions, like please come talk to us. Like talk to me. I'm willing to answer questions. It's like I think you do a wonderful job, like with the Joe OG and things like that. Where you are accessible to people. You're out there. You're putting out videos. You're explaining certain things. I love that.
First of all, if you were ever around my dad holding a flashlight or a wrench and you dropped it, there's nothing any of you are going to say worse than he said to me.
Exactly.
So again, criticism doesn't bother me. If you want to call me whatever, knock yourself out. I'm going to sleep fine. So that's one thing you got to be required in those type of jobs. You got to be able to take the abuse. And if that bothers you, you're in the wrong line of work.
Exactly. So if anybody wanted to get a hold of you to ask some questions or anything like that, where can they get a hold of you at?
Well, you just go to Facebook, message me.
Just follow you on Facebook.
My phone number's even on the thing you go through and scroll through for that matter,
Gotcha.
And generally, I'll see you, you can come see me, show you whatever's your problem, whatever your issue. And that rolls into anything from starting a business, because there's organizations and groups out there, economic development, that a lot of people don't know that they'll help you. They'll get the paperwork done for you. They'll get you set up. They'll help you get that business going. And again, that's why I'm wanting to do these. Joe, your presiding commissioner, as soon as we get into that a little more, be, hey, if you want to start a business, we have a women's group. We have this group. Here's the number. Give them a call. They'll help you do the paperwork. Because it when you start a business, it's kind of overwhelming about the crap you have to do. Oh my God, I need to tax this, and I need this number. And you're like, I don't even want to do it. I quit. You're overwhelmed at the start. There are people that will help you. One thing in life, remember at all times, people who have been successful in life, people are like, oh, I can't talk. Those are the people that will bend over backwards. If you're interested in cars, whatever, if you went to Benny Hayden and said, hey, what would you probably couldn't get away from. He'd sit down and talk to you for an hour about how to do it there. Those are the people that will help you. Don't surround yourself by losers. If you want to be a winner, surround yourself by other winners that have experience. They will be. That's all they've got. They've got the experience, and they love to share it.
Exactly. Very, very true.
Take advantage of it.
Well, Joe, it has been an honor, a pleasure.
Well, pleasure maybe. I don't know about the honor.
to have you on here, and hopefully everybody that watched this maybe learned something or took some good, valuable lessons from it. We couldn't thank you enough for showing up, and just again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoyed it. Anytime you got anything else you want, give me a call. Like I said, you ever need catering? I may not do the catering for you, but I'll tell you how to get it cheap.
Hey, there you go. There you go. It ain't what you know. It's who you know,
That's
people.
exactly right.
There you go.
All right, one last time, we're going to thank our sponsors, Forever 10 and GNC Sedalia, and we also want to thank everybody that has liked and subscribed to the channel. We hope to keep bringing you content weekly, and we just thank you so much. Everybody have a blessed, humble day. Our man Tanner behind the camera is going to go ahead and take us out. Thank you, Tanner. Here we go.
Thank you.